Folks, this is part 3 of my interview with Oakland Council President Lynette Gibson McElhaney. And my question to open up this is your thoughts on the Celeste Guap issue and the proposed Citizens Police Review Commission that's on the ballot. That's a mouthful.
It is. The issues with the young woman that people are calling Celeste are extreme.
Jasmine, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't use her name. I still treat her as a minor, and I don't want to use her working name because I treat her as a victim. And so the young woman, there are a few things that I've seen or witnessed. Now, in this role, I've witnessed a lot of tragedy. Too many children killed, including my own grandson. Right, we're on the 9th month.
Right, that was this year.
And as you know, my first authored legislation was to combat the sexual exploitation of children. So coming into the knowledge that officers who we've been working for the last 3 years to make sure we're trained on how to see these children caught up in the sex trade as victims of human trafficking, not as prostitutes to be criminalized. And to learn that there were multiple officers who participated in exploiting a child or being complicit in that exploitation through their silence is enraging. And I would also say that it brings to light these abuses within law enforcement and in culture that I think officers of high integrity need to begin to root out. This is the exploitation of sex workers is, it's so ingrained in our society now, right? We use these characters in Hollywood films and in novels, right? That you would have prostitute informants or people doing sexual favors, or I mean, they've become iconic in our popular culture because they exist in reality. And I just saw on Facebook this morning an officer who will serve 1 year for forcing a teenager to have sexual acts with he and his partner. He pled guilty, so not charged as a felony where you would do 25 years, pled guilty to a misdemeanor, so we'll do a year in jail and could then be restored to law enforcement after some probationary period.
Wow.
So the officers in the multiple agencies here in the Bay Area with this one child, I think this really speaks to a larger problem, and it's my hope that all of this pain will bring a reckoning to us around what needs to change in cop culture. You know, how are we attracting these, attracting and retaining men who would abuse the power and privilege of public service in such a way? Because it's not just an OPD, but those who are in OPD are being brought to account. And I will appreciate that the mayor meant that very seriously in her investigations, and that should there be others, I am really hoping that other officers will come forward now, like, pop the pimple now. Let's, find other victims and do whatever we need to do to get it cleaned up now, and then let us become a model for good law enforcement agency doing good work. How do we utilize this discrete use of force that we entrust to the men and women who wear the badge? And I will say too, this is such a horrible human tragedy. This young woman's mother is an employee within our agency, and we are putting our arms around her as a mother. And what I know from the work with the Youth Task Force and on the CSEC Task Force is that sometimes the way human trafficking works these days is parents may not know that their kids are in the trade. We have kids who go to school and come home at night who are being trafficked in the daytime between 3 and 7, right? Like they're turning tricks and they're under the threat of harsh punishment from their exploiters, you know, and one of our local food pantries, I think this was in 2013, had approached me because had a young woman, 13 years old, would come to the pantry with her grandmother, had an ankle monitor on. So faith workers are saying, you know, is your child in trouble with juvenile justice, or, you know, because it looked like an ankle monitor. And the grandmother didn't know what it was. It turns out she had a GPS on her from her exploiter.
Wow. Say that again, please.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we. I'm sorry, Zane. This is so hard on so many levels, and I know that in my own family in Southern California, a teenage cousin who's out there being exploited, having been cultivated and lured by a boyfriend she thought was a boyfriend, eventually had her on the stroll. And it took her mother several years to get her baby out of that lifestyle and get her restored. So I am heartbroken. I'm angry. We have made so much progress, I think, within the morale of the department. We've come so close to being in compliance with the spirit and the letter of the negotiated settlement agreement.
Right.
And for all of the officers, particularly the nearly 200 officers we just brought into the force,
Right.
under the, you know, we cast a big vision for we want you all to be the change we're seeking. How demoralizing this is for them, how ashamed they are, and how angry they are. I was at one of the sports games, and whenever I go to the games, I spend a lot of time meeting fans, residents, and our officers, right? I use it as an opportunity to get to know people. And I was talking with one of the officers out at the Warriors game shortly after the story broke. He said, will you all please quickly resolve this? I don't know who I'm working with. I don't want to work in uniform with a criminal.
Wow.
Right?
Right.
And so, you know, these things are hard. Cultural change in the best of circumstances at any major corporation you can think about is difficult.
Right.
I am placing my intention that we will attract the right kind of chief that will come and set the appropriate leadership tone and really create a climate where internally people feel safe to root out the attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that undermine authority, trust, and credibility, and in fact, in some ways, just criminal, right? Criminal behaviors, so that we don't have criminals within our ranks. That's in Oakland, that's across the country. And that goes for use of force, that goes for, you know, when we talk about use of force killings, it talks about all of those other things beyond the sexual exploitation. So I see them all intertwined and interlinked. And what do we do about it? What have I been doing about it? So to get at this issue around culture, I established the ad hoc committee for citizens to come in and tell us what can we do on recruitment and training and promotion. And that recommendation is coming back this month. We expanded monies for retention of high quality officers so that we don't end up with a bunch of rookies.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in every industry, the rookies, the teenagers or whatever, tend to make more mistakes, right? You need a mature
It's funny you said this,
project.
if I may. Celeste Guap said that the police should be older. She said that in my interview with her, she said that. So.
Yeah, so, you know, we want to retain officers. And, you know, I think, honestly, beyond Oakland, I think every leader within the Fraternal Order of Police and the POAs need to not protest Black Lives Matter, not get angry at Colin Kaepernick, right?
Right.
But use this as an opportunity to say, hey, listen, we stand for integrity in our ranks, and wherever there's someone who betrays that sacred trust, we will not defend. Like the POA in this case said very early, any officer that just under IA, we didn't even get to prosecution, right? Found in this investigation to have committed these acts, we will not defend. So I think that's probably unprecedented.
Yeah, definitely.
And
is.
I think that that says something about the current leadership. I think political leadership. It says something about the climate that we're in, and it says something that our officers, like the young officer, well, not even the young officer, he wasn't necessarily young, the officer who told me, complete y'all investigation. I don't want to go to work with criminals every day. It says something about a shift in the culture in Oakland, and if there's any rainbow in this cloud, it will be that this tragic story that gets unleashed at the point of an officer's suicide, that none of these lives will have been wasted in vain, but that it actually will lead us to more justice in how we do law enforcement. So that's that side of it.
This ends part 3.
Woo.